Wow, thank you so much, Pam, for your excellent video today. We're gutted that we can't have her. We love Pam, but she really took the time to make a meaningful video there, and I'm sure you'll agree that was great to hear. And it is an excellent warm up for the panel that we're about to introduce. So we're discussing the long debated topic: how can we get it right for everyone? Um, and we'll really want to make transitions equitable and supported experience. So that's why we're discussing it. So I'm going to ask each panelist to come up and take a seat on the stage just now. And we'll have some people on video as well joining us.
Rameez, you want to come up and you joining in? Up you come.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So just some space for you to introduce yourself, starting over here. So obviously the divergent influencers are all about transitions. There was comments earlier about whether transitions is about education, and if it is that just mainstream education, or what are we talking about? And the divergent influencers intersect interests in all parts of transitions. So from health, social care, mental health care, education in its broadest sense in life. We're just thinking about that period of time and what it really means to become an adult, if that even is a thing. So hopefully the mics are ready already, yet, and we're ready to go with our introductions. If you want to take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Callum Campbell. I'm from Social Work Scotland. I am a project officer there in the Self-Directed Sport project. However, I was a transition social worker in Edinburgh for 4.5 years.
Good afternoon. My name is Hazel Wotherspoon. I'm here in my role as a mum to 4 young adults, some not so young, 3 of whom have significant or complex, profound disabilities. And here basically to represent sort of 20% in Scotland that cannot speak for themselves and need advocates.
Hello. Hello, my name is Ruth Hendry. I too am a parent. My son is 29. He doesn't live at home anymore. And I was in a previous life a head teacher at the school he used to go to. So I have an educational background. Since retiring, I have become a trustee of Vocal, a carers organisation here in Edinburgh.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and excuse us for any technical difficulties, but appreciate your patience and understanding. So I'm Rameez, and I'm one of the facilitators for ARC Scotland's Divergent Influencers, and my duty is to ensure that I'm supporting everyone who has a voice and saying what the system needs to do to basically improve and become more accessible for people with mixture of support needs. So if you have any questions at some point, please feel free to ask. So over to you.
Thank you, Rameez. Yeah, there's been plenty of questions we can see already in the chat box, and we'll have an opportunity for that once we've heard from the panelists. I will go through some housekeeping for that. So just, I suppose everyone's got a shot to ask one question to try to make things equitable and fair. If you're in the audience, obviously just pop your hand up and we'll get round to you with questions. And people at home are welcome to ask questions too by popping it in the chat box, and someone here will pick up on that for you. So yeah, I'm just really excited to hear from you all a bit from the parent perspective, professional perspective, and young person's perspective. I don't think that there is. Oh, of course. I can't believe it. I'm sorry, you two. Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Claire Deal, and I am also part of the Divergent Influence group. I'm sorry I can't be there in person today, but my passions are transitioning through many aspects of life for physical disabled people. because I myself am a full-time wheelchair user, and I also have passions for making the world a more accessible place, and through the work I do with you inside as well. So thank you for having us all today.
Hello, my name is Rebecca and I work for Lead Scotland. We are a small but mighty charity supporting disabled people to access accessible learning. And I run our Disabled Students Helpline, basically answering questions for young people thinking about going into college and university. Also lots of kind of questions and support to parents as well. Really kind of helping to guide people thinking about what their next steps are when they're leaving school, what the options are, what support is available, how funding works, perhaps how the benefit system interacts with student funding. And also lots of questions around, okay, I'm participating now, I'm at college or university, but things are perhaps not going as I imagined. I'm kind of looking to get some support on how to kind of address or how to overcome this barrier. But also looking at beyond college and university, what other options are there, and kind of how to access those different opportunities as well. So I've been doing that for the last almost 7 years now. So try to kind of have a good broad overview of what's happening in Scotland and working with disabled young people and parents to try and kind of influence and inform changes that might improve access to education for disabled people. And thank you very much for having me today. Sorry that I can't be there in person. I had a meeting this morning, so I just couldn't get there in time.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire and Rebecca. Sorry again. I'm new to this as well, so we all are. And it's the first time that we've worked on a blended conference, so remembering to check all areas and dot the T's and cross the I's. But yeah, like I said, I'm very excited and I really appreciate hearing all different perspectives at once and how they react with each other. And I'm sure, Julie, as a parent, that means something to you.
Yeah, it really does. It means a lot to have parents represented, but also to learn from each other, everyone having a point of view and something that they can bring to the young person's life, and most importantly, having the young person right there in the centre. So I'm really excited about this afternoon. So I'm going to kick it off with the first question. And the first question, we're all here to talk about transition and getting it right, but it can mean something different to everyone. Can you talk about what it means to you? And Hazel, can I ask you to come in first, please?
Well, I've gone through 3 transitions. My son's 34 and he didn't really have one. He just sort of slid into adulthood. We had no contact with social work or energy until he was 21. The next one down, who is 27, she's got a rare genetic syndrome. It's a very difficult syndrome to have. It's one of the hardest ones that we know of. She's got a massive behavioural issue with it. She had her transition planning started at 15, but I had done all the work. I knew what I wanted and where I wanted to go, and we got it. The next one down, she's nearly 24. She's severe cerebral palsy. She's non-speaking. She's tube fed, totally dependent. We had a fantastic, transitions worker, got a good budget, then couldn't find the staff to do what was needed. For me, transitions has to be individualized. Even within the syndrome that my daughter has, which is Smith-Magenis syndrome, they're all very different. So it has to be person-centered, which we keep, the buzzwords person-centered, holistic. We're not just beings that eat, sleep, and drink. We need the emotional side looked after. We need the social side looked after. We need everything looked after. So a good transition will encompass all of those. My youngest daughter's got a lot of health problems and has spent a lot of time in hospital. And I think I found that the hardest part of transition for her was being a young adult and bearing in mind that where I live, from 16, you go into adult wards. I vowed she would never spend a night in a local hospital. Sadly, it had to happen, but the lack of knowledge with health staff, to me, is not good. They don't know how to treat young adults with a disability. I got asked once, she's 21, why is she behaving like that? And I thought, well, think of her as a 4-year-old and you might go somewhere. So to me, transitions need to be totally person-centred. They need to be needs-led, not diagnosis-led, not money-led, but we all know they are. And they need to encompass every aspect of life. So they need social support as well as care support and places to go.
But Callum, can I ask you maybe to come in and say your perspective on the same question? Is that all right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, I completely echo what Hazel said, and speaking from the perspective of a social worker who had the privilege of being involved in transition, and that's the key word for me. It was a privilege to be that social worker because it was such an important role to be in, but I also know that there was a bit of a luxury where I was as a social worker in Edinburgh that I was on a team that was dedicated to transition. So all of my time and effort could be spent doing that, focusing on that. And I know that's not the same across the country, but I suppose from my experience, it was absolutely what Hazel said. It's about that person-centered, and also person-led is really important as well. You know, the young person that I worked with was at the heart of everything, and I did everything I could to make sure that was their voice, their opinions, their dreams, their wishes was completely carried through with everything that I did. But again, when I reflect on my time as a social worker, I was given the luxury of time and I was given trust. I was allowed to build up that relationship with a young person. I was allowed to go and see them at school. I was allowed to see them at respite. I could see them at home because that was encouraged, and I got to know them, and I was able to reflect that both in the assessment that we did together. It was co-produced, and the package of care, again, that was developed together with the young person, with their family, and with anyone else that was important in their life. So for me, it really was a privilege to be involved in that. And actually, it was about those dreams and those aspirations. And when I think back, if you said to me, when were you the best social worker you ever were? I'd say it was when I was a transition social worker, because I got to do what I came into social work to do. It was to help young people, or to help someone do what they needed to do to move on to that next point in their life. So I got to support young people into going to college, going to university, moving into their own home, moving to other parts of the country. And it all just by looking at what support they needed in order to do that. And I was there in the background just helping push things through and letting the young person take the lead and have that spotlight on them. So for me, transition is essential, but that support is huge. And speaking as a social worker, hopefully for all social workers, we have a huge role in that, and sometimes that is ignored and we can do better. And there is work going on to make that better, which hopefully I can talk a bit about later. But I think that's it for me.
Callum, Claire, can I ask you to come in now and let us know what you think about getting it right and what it means to you?
Yeah, so transition for me was very stressful, and I feel definitely person-centered is the way to go. That wasn't how it started with me, but it's slowly got there in the end. But yeah, listening, sorry, I apologize. I got a puppy and he started barking. So yeah, just listening to the person that's going through that transition and supporting not only them but their family as well, looking at each aspect of their life. So when I transitioned from high school to further education, there was lots of other things going on, healthcare transition, just social care as well, things like that. So not just focusing on the one aspect that you're there for, but looking at their life in general.
To you, Claire, and thanks to Sheldon for his input as well. Ruth, can I perhaps ask you to come in next, please?
Yes, I think I've got this working. Thank you. I think possibly, I mean, you've touched on the transitions from school to post-school, and I would have to say that Callum's team was very supportive when Ben was coming up to leaving school, but maybe it's more useful then to talk about the transition that Ben made just a few years ago when he left home to go to a residential establishment where he lives now very happily. Because that was different, because of course by that stage there was not a social worker, no transition team. It was something that we were organising from where we lived in Edinburgh, but the placement we'd found for Ben was in Perth and Kinross. So there was a journey, there was a different set of organizations that weren't neighbors, didn't know each other. But what was really ultimately crucial was the communication between everyone. We did set up the day servers that Ben had in the city. Were quite used to doing transition passports. They had been using these for the children coming up from school, and we simply started when we began to know Ben was moving on to pull together all the information on our side about what Ben would need going forward. It was really crucial to capture the essence of Ben. He's non-verbal, and he would not be in a position to talk for himself. It was really crucial to be very realistic in what we were saying about him, and we had lots of photographs. We tried to capture all the things he liked to do. We were very keen that he went to a sort of more rural setting, because our boy was a runner and a climber, and he had challenged quite a bit the people in the city. Shopping centres were not his thing, and there were a lot of hazards in the city, and that's what we were being offered if we had stayed local. And we realised that we really wanted something that was going to offer him something broader. And it was a bit like Nico was saying earlier, that, you have to step back, you have to take risk, you have to actually accept that you can't protect your young person from everything. But we felt that good communication, we were lucky that we were able to do visits, Ben was able to do visits with other people, so that the people who were seeing him in Edinburgh could go up and see him in a different setting and advise and say, look, things are going to happen. This is not going to be plain sailing, but if things do unravel a bit, these are the strategies that we've used with some success. But recognizing it was all quite, we were taking a risk. But for Ben, his communication non-verbally were very clear. He did 2 runners right at the very beginning, and he suddenly found that he was in a big space where people could see him a mile off. And, so all the reasons he used to do runners from home, it was just different. They were so much more laid back. There were no locks on any of the doors. If he wanted to exit, he had that freedom. And he soon exercised it and then realized, actually, it's fine. And he settled, and he hasn't done any running for a long time. Similarly, he had to find his way onto the roof, so he knew he could do it, but he did it. He tried another roof, he's more or less, the only thing he climbs now is a bit of a climbing wall they've got, and the trees. And even then, as so many of you will know, as your kids grow up, thankfully, some of the horrors of their childhood, they go through that and come out the other side. But the critical thing was people were prepared to listen. And, we heard references to folk going and writing long assessments that are full of good information, and then the horror of people not reading those. I can't believe we were very lucky. We felt we were heard, but we felt that was better because it was proper conversations, one-to-one. And we were really grateful to the organisation he left in Edinburgh, because they staffed up and gave the people time to go with Ben and visit. We also felt very good that the organisation he was going to were prepared to come to Edinburgh, see him at home, see him out and about, see him at the day service he was at. And we felt that they saw him doing what he enjoyed, sometimes doing things he didn't so much enjoy. They saw it all. And I mean, the big thing for us was it was real, so that when things weren't perfect, they felt confident in how to manage that. And we then had confidence we weren't going to have him, sort of bounce back because they said it just didn't work. And it did work, and it was brilliant. And he has risen to the challenge, and he's not the young man that he left home. He's got more confidence. He does more stuff himself. And, they tried different workshops with him. And I think the gardeners knew that when he left the workshop and went outside and peed on their strawberries, he was telling them he needed to be outdoors. And they found ways. And that's been a huge thing. it goes back to what everybody said about you have to start with the individual. You cannot match them into posts. You cannot just say that it worked for somebody else, so it will work for them. They now have him doing all kinds of very individual things. If he needs a movement break, if he needs to get out regardless of the weather, they go round and they fill bird feeders right round the community, or he delivers stuff right round the community. He's a dab hand picking up horse shit. You know, it's whatever it takes. And it's lovely. And I would also say one of the things that have made his transition so good is they didn't give up. There were things that didn't work at the beginning, and they've left them and gone back to them. And we just got a lovely wee video a couple of weeks back of Ben on the back of a horse. Well, I can tell you, he would may bloody get on a horse all those years ago, even when we knew he had once been very happy to go horse riding. But now something's changed and now he does. But good conversations, being honest, having it written down too, and the willingness of people to really know somebody. That's what I would think that makes a good transition.
Thank you so much, Ruth. That's phenomenal, like every other story that has been shared. Louise, can I ask you to come in now and tell us, getting it right, what does that mean for you as a young person?
Yeah, so can you hear me okay? Cool. So yeah, I can't remember, did I mention that I have autism? I mean, most of you are aware, but for those who don't know me, that I have autism as well, and also I have a brother who has autism and a mother as well. So yeah, but the point about transition, and yeah, excuse me that sometimes I go off on the tangents, but I sometimes do that when I meet new people, but I'm sure you're all really nice people who are very passionate and who wants the best for their children and for society in the years to come, generations to come. So yeah, transition is basically, it's like you're changing from one form to another, but also in life, it's like a journey. It's like getting from one place to another. And basically, as I've mentioned, I wrote a wee script, a very creative analogy, because people like me have a very creative approach in life. And I see life as like a road journey, or not just necessarily a road journey, but a journey to get from one time frame to another. And you have options and how you get to places. Sometimes you may take. What's interesting is that just imagine we're in Edinburgh just now, and you'd like to travel to Glasgow or London or even Wales or even many parts of the world. So there's different ways to get from one geographical location to another, and to get transition right, to get the journey right. I mean, the one thing I'd like to pinpoint with having additional support needs, it's going to sound negative, but it's the honest truth. Transition for us has felt like being put in a car without an MOT, basically sheer neglect in some aspects, because what's happened is that I have autism, and as a matter of fact, I don't want to say, the thing is with autism, it's not a disease, it's nothing of a type of sort that's going to debilitate anyone from living a life. We have a unique way. I mean, as a matter of fact, as human beings, we are unique, and people who have autism, like they process things they take their time. They have basically, as I mentioned, like to get from Edinburgh to London, you can go along the A1, or you can take a slightly longer route and travel towards like the A74, if I know my map's correct, but my brother would know. He's the expert in these sorts of things. But yeah, just imagine like in life, the choices you make is a type of journey and the type of vehicle you take to get from one place to another. And the thing I mentioned, and I'm going to pull my script out as well, and I'll read it to you because there's a different things when you're talking to someone, you can just naturally talk to them. Whereas if you have a script, you can sort of look back to it and sort of, because to put it this way, this is my first time in a while since I've come to a live conference in person because of COVID. So, and also I'm aware that, you know, because a lot of us have a story to sharing the time frame that we have. So
Ramiz, can I just say you're doing amazingly. Yeah, you're doing
thank you.
great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a quick story about this event. So this morning I was being a facilitator for the students at school for people that support any people with additional support needs that have so not just autism, but they have other forms. So like some have some have some are deaf and sorry if I'm saying the words that I'm trying to not use that are stereotypes. So some have hearing challenges, which in society is not like the whole purpose of today's event is that we as a collective human race and as a person, we've got to assess how we approach these things. And guys, do not blame, nobody should blame ourselves because it's a learning process for everyone. You know, for years we've been told about autism and about other forms of disabilities and additional support needs that they're a worrying sign in life. And I get why, and I understand why this is the case because, and the reason why this is the case and the secret is why we worried about people who have additional support needs is because the system has led us astray. We've been brainwashed badly by the system to the point that we're like thinking, because thing is, you know, I'm really blessed to have a nice family, like a mother and a father who stuck by and a nice loving brother. It's just when it comes, because there's differences when you're in your own home, you're in your comfort zone, but when you're out in the world, it's like you're meeting all sorts of people and they treat you in a way that's different to how your mother, your father, and your brothers or any of your close relatives treat you. And I may be telling a personal story, but I just hope this personal story is going to shed light on the reality of what it's really like. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm really blessed to have additional support needs. I'm really blessed to have autism because it's given me an opportunity that, because a few times in my teenage years, I thought to myself, you know, I'm not getting anywhere in life. Like, what the hell is going on here? But then, you know, and to give people reassurance that it doesn't matter whether you're religious or non-religious, like obviously I'm a Muslim as well, and I do believe that life has its challenges, but it's okay to sometimes feel lost and think to yourself, as much as God is setting you a challenge, it's okay to feel like questioned about, did I do something wrong in some form or another that I'm facing these challenges? But the thing is, thing is, we as human beings, we make choices and we sometimes do things we're not proud of. And it doesn't mean that if you have the heart to, like, thing is, like, I know what I mean about going off tangent. I like to talk about all sorts of examples and analogies because quite often we have people who've like, and the thing is, another thing that's really important is drugs and mental health is another hard-hitting topic, and that's going beside the point about additional support needs, because I think the point I'm going to emphasize here is that people, even people who don't have autism or who don't have a known additional support needs, they're entitled to support because it could be struggling with anxiety. It could be like, you know, first-time parents, or it could be also any factors in it. People like, if you think about it, like, funny thing is, when you see people who live a lavish, rich life, anyone can be affected by challenges. And, you know, the reality is, it's really important that we, you know, because we stay positive and we have faith. We don't give up hope. We have the fighting spirit in us that life has its challenges. And I'm going to be very honest. When I do, I'm really glad that I'm taking part in this event, because this is an event that I've long been waiting for quite some time. And yeah, you know, to mum and dad and my family as well, that, you know, when I have because the one thing with challenge with having autism is that some things get too much. And as you mentioned about your son who has challenges, the way that people behave, people need to reconsider that. They can't just dismiss somebody and think that this person is a badly behaved child. They're not. The thing is, they're not doing it on purpose. They're not deliberately doing it because they're they're sadists or they like to see people suffer. No, it means that they're scared, they're nervous, they're anxious, and also they're angry. And I'll tell you why a few times. I mean, some of you have seen my angry side and some of you have not seen it. And I'll tell you a reason why I'm prone to meltdowns and anger and frustration is because for years I've been, even though my parents have supported me with my choices, I had to live in a system where people have said to me, you're autistic, you're not like your friends. Have to get used to being that different, and that can really, like, it sticks with somebody. I mean, even though I'm doing all the positive things in life, and another factor that contributes to stress is sometimes, a few times when I'm nervous, I get a
Ramiz,
sensory overload.
can I come in here and
Oh,
say
yeah.
something? You said something about being important. I think it's really important, and I think you speaking today and sharing what you've lived through
Yeah.
is vital. And I think that is really important. So I really want to thank you
And
for
to
that.
ask a special permission, am I okay to stand up? Because it just helps me feel relaxed. Because
Yep.
I know ideally, because the
No,
thing is,
Feel free to
you know,
stand up. We're going to move
this
on
is a
to
lot
Rebecca
better,
now, but if
more
you want
natural.
to stay standing, that's fine.
I mean, a few times,
Whatever you're comfortable with, for me. So
yeah.
as long as Rebecca's desperate to come in here, but it's
Oh,
all right.
fine,
Don't
yeah.
worry, we'll bring you back in again before the end. So can I thank you very, very much, Ramiz? Thank you so much. And Rebecca,
Anytime.
can I ask you to come in, please,
Sure thing.
and let us know what you think and your experience is
Just
about
have a
getting it
seat.
right. What does that mean to you?
Sure, thank you, Julie. I was very much enjoying listening to Ramiz there. It was actually very therapeutic, just fantastic, insightful, articulate, eloquent, beautifully put. So I just want to thank you for your contribution there, and I could listen to you all day. So you brought me out of my trance there, Julie. But yeah, so I guess for me, getting transitions right is really all about from my perspective and my experience, is about really getting the right information and advice at the right time to young people and to parents. What we find on our helpline is that quite often, more often than not, people are not being given the right information about what the options are. Often we get calls really quite late into the transition process, where parents or young people don't know actually what is available, whether it be what the option is after school or what support is going to be available at that option, whether it be college or university. And often it feels like a big scramble. It's a big scramble. It's a rush against time to try and get all the pieces of the jigsaw fit together to try and figure out who's going to provide the support, who's going to pay for the support, how will we get the assessment put together, how does that work? And it's a really confusing, complex landscape. So the earlier that information is made available in the most accessible way, and really good practice, as good practice suggests, as per the principles of good transition, is about not kind of overwhelming with that information. Getting transitions right is about providing that information in stages, and by helping people to understand the different options over a period of time. So it's really about preparation and exploring all of the options, and really letting people, I guess, suck it and see. So for me, I think young people, people in general, we don't all know what we want to do. How do you know until you've done it? You don't know what you don't know. So I think the opportunity to try things out, to explore, to go and visit, it's really all about kind of having that experience to go and, whether it might be having a bridging program into college, where you might have an opportunity to go and have like a day release where you can go and kind of try it out, or you can go and have some open days. Some universities provide summer transition programs, some are specifically very much geared towards autistic young people. There's some programs that are specifically developed for young people with mental health problems, kind of recognising, the potential extra barriers that you might face. So it's about kind of recognizing that extra information and advice and that extra preparation that's needed to try and kind of, I guess, anticipate some of the potential questions or issues that might come up for you. And you can't anticipate everything that might come up. It's about trying to think about what might come up for you in that transition and what you might be able to prepare for and doing that kind of preparation. And if you don't have the right information and advice and guidance at the right time, then that can be really difficult. So for me, getting transitions right is about having the right information at the right time.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you to the panel as well. I'm going to ask one more question myself, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. The next one, just a quick one, really. I think you've all elaborated so much, and it's clear to me there isn't a straightforward or one size fits all answer. I think we knew that anyway, but hearing the perspectives is important. So, from your perspective, what does it mean to be included or to have inclusion at the center of getting it right? We spoke a lot about person centered, but I think we all have different, or some of us have different understandings of that. So to open up to whoever wants to go first, from your perspective, what does it mean to be included or have inclusion at the center? Hazel?
I mean, I think, for me to be included is absolutely essential and vital. I've got 2 young girls, ladies, they're my babies, that cannot speak for themselves. If you ask my 27-year-old who does speak, what would you like your future life to look like? She'd look at you as if saying, what on earth are you talking about? As long as I've got my iPad that I can watch Challenge TV on, I get fed and I can go to charity shops, I'm fine. My 23-year-old has more understanding, but she's non-speaking, she cannot verbalize. You have to tease things out of her. So for me to be included, it's a non-starter not to be, and that it's great hearing from people from the divergent influences about their thoughts and things, but the professionals need to remember that there are some that cannot do it themselves. They need us. And I think, it's, they can make choices. I mean, my daughter makes choices every day. She was meant to go swimming today, but she woke up in a bad mood because she knew I wasn't going to be at home, and saying she wasn't going swimming. She wanted to go back to the gym, which was fine. So it's not as if we're taking choice away from them. I mean, 99.9% and more of the time, we know our kids best. We know what they're thinking. I can read my non-speaking daughter like a book, and I know exactly what she's thinking. And it's getting people to realise, and it's, as you said, it's one size does not fit all. It does not fit all, even within the same syndrome groups. They're individuals who can and will contribute to society if they're given the chance. It's up to us as parents to get that chance.
Yeah, thank you. I know from my perspective, I often think that means answering the right question.